What is going on, world? Lamont at large. Today I am in Fort Worth, Texas. We are walking at the La Grande Plaza Shopping Center. We're going to talk about the disappearance of three girls who came Christmas shopping here on December 23rd, 1974, and they were never seen ever again. We're going to go back to December 23rd, 1974. Fort Worth, Texas. It's 2 days until Christmas, and this place is buzzing. It is absolutely packed. 50 years ago, this place was called the South Seminary Shopping Center, and it was a hub where all of the kids, teenagers, and young adults in Fort Worth would come. This was the mall back in those days, and of course, like a lot of malls in America back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, they had their anchor stores. And one of the anchor stores here was Sears. And Sears was right where that Ross Dress for Less is. Now, oftentimes, if you're under the age of 35, you probably don't even really know what Sears is, or it sounds like a distant memory. But when I was a kid, Sears was a big deal. Sears was what today would be almost like Walmart or Amazon even. So 17-year-old Mary Rachel Trilisa, 14-year-old Lisa Renee Wilson, and 9-year-old Julie Ann Mosley all came to this shopping center. Now at the time, Mary, who actually goes by her name, or went by her name, her middle name of Rachel, was already at the age of 17, she was already married to a man, Tommy Trilisa, and she had been married for about 6 months. And Lisa, who went by her middle name as well, Renee, she was coming here, and later on, she had some kind of a Christmas party to attend to, a very, very important Christmas party, and it was important she needed to be there. And 9-year-old Julie, well, she just wanted to tag along because she was bored. Now, I don't believe any of these girls were related. Possibly they could have all just been like friends or just neighbors or what have you. But Julie, who was 9 years old, she seen the other two girls, getting into Rachel's car. And she says, well, I want to go too. And she asked her mom if she can go. And her mom might have said no at first, and then, kids want to go. I said, please, can I go? She said, okay. So the girls got into Rachel's 1972 Oldsmobile 98 and came on the way over here. But first they made a stop at a store where Rachel had some stuff on layaway. So after going to the store to make a payment, or maybe to pick up the items that she had on layaway, the girls come here to the South Seminary Shopping Center. Now, Sears sometimes are designed kind of odd. They would have like two different entrances. So this mall, where I showed you previously, the Ross Dress for Less, and you see this building right here, this would be Burlington Coat Factory. Well, this was where Sears used to be. So oftentimes the Sears, you go in through like a main front entrance, and then a lot of times in malls all over the country, they'll have like a second smaller entrance, or maybe the entrance actually might be their automotive section. It just depends on the design of the layout. So these girls came to this shopping center to do some shopping. Now, I believe Renee was supposed to be at that Christmas party by 4 p.m. And 4 p.m. comes and goes. She doesn't show up. Nobody's heard from Rachel. And of course, Julie, I'm sure her mother told her, you guys got to be back at a certain time because it gets dark back in those days. She never arrives. The family gets worried. They know that the girls came to the South Seminary Shopping Center. So they come looking for her car. Now, they did find a car. I'm not 100% sure exactly where this car would be. On a newspaper article, it said that it was parked at the upper level. Now, you probably can't tell, but this would be like the lower parking area. It kind of goes at a slope. And if you see that right there, if I can kind of zoom, that looks like how a main entrance to a mall used to look like. So I'm imagining that most people, when you see a Sears right here, and then you have what looks like it would be a main mall entrance over there, I'm going to imagine that everybody back in those days would park right here, as close to the entrance to the mall as you can absolutely get. And then this section, which on the article it referred to as the upper section, is in a sense the upper section. And this would be the section where, you know, by the time they got over here, this place is already packed. So maybe there's no parking down over here. So more than likely, guys, I'm just guessing. I'm just using my rudimentary detective skills, my armchair detective skills at best. I would guess this is the upper level, so they could have parked anywhere up this way. Now, 6 p.m., by the time the family members of Rachel show up, there's nobody to be found except their car. And that is it. The police are called. They come to the scene. There's not much they can do. They really don't have any witnesses other than you get the same old nonsense when it comes to, you know, missing cases and all that sort of stuff. Now, this case got a lot of attention in the local news media here in Fort Worth, and this was all over the news. You got 3 young girls who disappeared over the couple days before Christmas. And of course, like today, like 50 years ago, 80 years ago, you'll always have somebody that wants to feel a little bit important. So even though they might have not seen what they think they've seen, maybe they just kind of want to think in their brain, well, maybe I did see them and I seen a guy talking to them. So of course you had that. You had people saying, oh yeah, an African-American gentleman was helping her with bags to her car, or I seen this and I seen that. And you had a lot of those people coming out of the woodwork, you know, thinking that they're helping, when in actuality they're muddling into a serious investigation. The only weird thing about this case that I can add as to what happened is maybe the next day or two after their disappearance, the husband of Rachel gets a weird letter in the mail. Now, I wrote down what she put. So basically the letter says this, quote, I know I'm going to catch it, but we had to get away. We're going to Houston. See you in about a week. The car is in Sears upper lot. Love, Rachel. Now, Rachel's husband, Tommy, I believe he told the detectives about this case. He said, yeah, that's her handwriting, but she wouldn't just up and leave and go to Houston. It's Christmas time. She wants to be with me. She wants to be with her friends. She wants to be with her family. And by the way, we got 9-year-old Julie who's tagging along with them. So she's just going to take some 9-year-old girl without her mother's permission. You know what I mean? It was just a very, very weird case. And Renee wanted to go to that party, and it was very important. I mean, she had to be there because she liked the boy a lot, and he was going to be there, so she had to be there. This case has, like a lot of other cases, you know, they could have been this, they could have been that, their car's over here, this is what happened. And police departments, they get very desperate, and then they start talking to psychics, and then the psychics are telling them, oh, the man had blonde hair and he abducted them, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And, you know, you have almost 50 years later, these 3 girls, literally, almost in a sense, not literally, but just seems like they just walked off the face of the earth, and that is it. There has been absolutely no sign of them at all whatsoever. So it's just like they just disappeared into thin air. The only thing, getting away from all the rigmarole, the only thing that I can add about the case is that the police The only thing they know of is that the girls, whoever they left with somebody that the police believe they knew and they trusted. Currently, we are walking down the 1000 block of Fuller Avenue, not even about a mile from where we just were at that shopping center. We're gonna go to February 17th, 1977. 25-year-old June Ward is working as a nurse and living down in Cleburne, Texas with her father and her 8-year-old son. Cleburne is about maybe 25 minutes or so south of Fort Worth. So on that day, June drops her son off at the YMCA because he's involved in some kind of a boxing tournament or something like that. After dropping him off, she tells her father that she has a date in Fort Worth. That is the last time her father ever sees his daughter. According to the last witness that seen June alive, she was at some kind of a park and eat place where, like, you know, you just eat in your car, and she was eating alone by herself in Cleburne, Texas, in her 1976 red and white Cadillac. You fast forward to the very next day, February 18th, 1977. It's about 3 a.m. A motorist is driving down this very street. He's driving down a street and he notices that along the curb, somebody's just laying there in the street. So he drives up to them to see if they're okay, and upon closer inspection, he notices that what appears to be a woman who is totally nude, and she's not moving. He immediately calls 911. The police arrive, and there's nothing that they can do. She's already dead. Wearing absolutely not a stitch of clothing, all she has on her body is a golden necklace. She was later, of course, identified as 25-year-old June Ward. She's taken to the coroner's office for autopsy, and it appears that the cause of death was strangulation. Somebody has strangled her with what appeared to be possibly a bra strap, probably hers. And she was bludgeoned in the head with a sharp, blunt object, possibly either a hatchet or an axe. To this day, absolutely no suspects. Nobody knows who this guy was that June was supposed to be meeting here in Fort Worth. Nothing at all. Just another young woman murdered in the streets, in this country, in this world. Absolutely no evidence. Another unsolved homicide. February 27th, 1980. We're down in Waco, Texas. We have one 40-year-old Lillian Heffley. She tells her husband, Gerhard, I'm gonna go visit my friend up in Fort Worth. That drive is about 75 miles, about an hour or so. She leaves the house, jumps in her car. Later on that evening, about 8 p.m., Fort Worth Police Department received a call from the park ranger here at Sansom Park that there is a car here and that there is somebody in the car deceased. The police arrive and they see what appears to be a mid-70s red and white Cadillac. They open up the door to the car and they indeed find a woman lying in the passenger seat, dead. Later, she was identified as 40-year-old Lillian Heffley, and during the autopsy, it is noted that she died of 2 shotgun blasts to her body, one to her torso, midsection area, and the other to her arm. Lillian was only 5 feet tall and weighed just about 90 pounds, so you can imagine the kind of devastating carnage 2 shotgun blasts would do to a person that small. And to add insult to injury, it was noted on the autopsy report that it appeared to be a cigarette butt or a cigar butt that was put out on her body. Now, I'm not sure whether this cigar butt actually exists or not. The Fort Worth Police Department, in an interview, declined to respond to the question of if this cigar butt exists or not. But if it does exist, then that would be the only bit of evidence, if there's any DNA on it, that they have that would be able to solve this case going on 43 years. It's one thing to kill somebody, but to put out a cigar in such a disrespectful manner tells me anyways that this murder that was committed, this person had a very, very personal vendetta against Lillian. Now, she lived in Waco, but the murder might have occurred in Fort Worth, and that's the problem with solving this case, because you have 2 different jurisdictions who are possibly investigating this case, because there's no proof that this murder actually occurred in Fort Worth. So I'm guessing the detectives out in Waco are the ones handling this matter, and I want to say there's only one detective in Waco that handles cold cases, and there might also only be one in Fort Worth. I might have got them confused. I'm not quite sure which one only has one. But both cities, even though they're big, they're not, really, really huge cities, and there may not be money, enough money anyways, allocated to the police fund to go about investigating these old unsolved murders. I didn't read anything online about whether Lillian had any enemies, if she were involved in, drugs or anything of that nature, criminal stuff, nothing at all. She was a very lovely woman from what I've read online, and had no known enemies whatsoever. Somewhere out there in this area, possibly this state, Lillian was murdered, and her murderer is free. Again, another unsolved case.